one of the sort of things you can get with buyouts is people will say, okay, your company's worth $100. We'll give you $50 today. And if you can grow it to $200, we'll give you $150 in 2 weeks. Or, so there's mechanisms to give you a small amount up front, and then you give you performance targets. And if you meet those performance targets, then, hey, it's going to be great. But if you don't meet those performance targets, then you might be left with only $50 for a $100 business.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be pretty careful about, and I'd say to people who are going through a transaction, really get advice from a neutral third party who knows what they're talking about, and probably also get an advice from a lawyer who you trust, just so you understand what you're agreeing to. Because, I mean, we were kind of not trained in that part of the world. We had to do some pretty quick learning to understand what it meant. We came, pretty close to another transaction, another deal that just wouldn't, in the end, have suited us, because we had to have. We can see why they asked for performance targets, and they weren't being unreasonable. They wanted to grow a very, very large hospital business and have us running it, which would have been very exciting if it worked. If it didn't work,
we would have been left with.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of people, they get sort of this sense of urgency, and it's really quite a stressful process. So I think a lot of people just end up signing. Like, I just want this to be over. And then it all falls apart afterwards, right? So you really need to make sure you've got great advice and you're not jumping in just to sell, because it can really end up burning.
Yeah, and I guess, just in case people aren't familiar with this, sort of the timeline is generally years. You have the initial conversations, people sort of like what they hear. You find someone that you think might be a good fit for you. They offer you what they call a term sheet, which is kind of like, this is the basic skeleton of the deal we're willing to offer you. It's normally one page, and that outlines roughly what's going to happen. You normally can't really change the terms of a term sheet markedly unless there's mutual agreement. From the term sheet, you then go into due diligence. Due diligence is essentially them and their team making sure that everything you've told them about the business is actually true, and you haven't hidden anything. And there's normally, obviously, legal due diligence, financial due diligence. They'll look over HR, they'll look over privacy, they'll look over the systems you're using. That's a pretty massive undertaking. And I'd say that due diligence, even in small companies like ours, is 6 to 12 months of pretty hard work.
And David was basically full-time on the due diligence when we were having it. Was very,
and
very
thousands
intense.
of pages.
Yeah.
And they're just asking you for more and more and more information.
And
right.
Like, these guys were good. They'd say, there's a receipt here for stationery that you bought in 2015, but I can't see it on your accounts. So can you explain to me whether you've got fake receipts or whether your accounts aren't correct? Which one of the two have you stuffed up? And, and I guess what they told me afterwards is, if you get through due diligence and we haven't found something, we know you're lying, because everybody's got something.
And it's not because you're dodgy, it's because no business can have everything under control.
No one's that pulled together, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you go through due diligence, and then you get sort of what's called the sale and purchase agreement, which is the expanded version of the term sheet. That's normally 50 to 100 pages long, with all of what you can and can't do afterwards. After you sell the business, you normally wouldn't go into competition with the business you sold. You can't steal staff. You can't take records. You can't. You got to behave with honor afterwards, essentially. And also, there's what they call warranties and reps, which basically means that everything you told us in due diligence is actually true. And if we found out you've been lying to us, then you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So you get the sale and purchase agreement. After your lawyers argue about that backwards and forwards for another few months, and then finally, there comes a day where you sign the contract. After that, you've sold, and you'll normally get, everyone's deal might be different, but you normally get some form of payment on signing. You'll have to continue working for the company for another couple of years to hand over the business to the next people. And then normally after that couple of years is up, you'll get the rest of the payment. That's a very sort of simple way to do it. That'd be the standard. So we're looking from the day you first meet the people to the day you actually walk out of the business, I think 4 to 5 years. Is the sale process.
So it's been going on that long. Yeah. Wow.
And you can see why as well. There were times along that you can get right to the end before you've signed that sales and purchase agreement, and you've put in almost a year's worth of work. So you can see why people kind of just, we'll just sign it, because there's so much that's invested in it already. But if it's if it's not right for you, it's much better to just back away.
And it is super nerve-wracking. I mean, because the other side's also true that they can back away at any time. They can say, look, we've found,
Even the market
Yeah,
isn't
you
right.
put 3 years of work in and they back out.
And
That's got to be nerve-wracking.
It's happened to who've gone through all the due diligence, and the company said, look, nothing wrong with you. It's just we decided we're not going to, this is not right for us at the moment. So thanks.
Because priorities change, right? The world changes.
Yeah, so and that's why it gets super, super stressful. Because when you do sell a company, obviously it's a milestone in your life. But if it collapses, you've wasted 3 or 4 years.
Yeah. So I had 2 questions on that. One was, apart from lawyers and accountants, were there any other external resources that you guys went to help you through that process?
We had a great lawyer.
Okay.
He was so good.
Experienced at doing this, done it
Super
many
experienced.
times.
This is not something that you want to skimp on.
Okay.
And it's also not something you want a lawyer who doesn't know exactly what's going on to do it, because there's a comma on page 79 that's in the wrong place, and that means something totally different to what you thought it meant.